During the early 1900, Parker Schnabel's grandpa, John Schnabel, was involved in the pursuit of gold in the Klondike. This is the beginning of the captivating story that is Parker Schnabel's road to prosperity. As a result of John's dogged perseverance, he was able to become a millionaire miner despite the many challenges he faced. Parker began his mining career at the tender age of 5, having been inspired to do so by his grandfather. He had already established himself as a mining genius by the time he was 16 years old and was already operating his own claim. The question is, how much wealth has Parker amassed? You might be taken aback by the response itself. Therefore, the Schnabel tale in the Klondike could be traced all the way back to the early 1900. In an effort to pursue his ambition of finding gold, a young John Schnabel packed his belongings and journeyed north. And there is no doubt about it. It was not an easy task. These formative years were fraught with a great deal of adversity and a great deal of failure. However, John was constructed in a different way. He persevered, learned the ropes the hard way, and eventually he established himself as a successful businessman. As a result of his decades of expertise in the mining industry, he is now considered to be one of the most experienced miners in the Klondike. As a result of his perseverance and hard work, John Schnabel was able to amass a gold pile worth many millions of dollars by the time he reached his senior years. However, the Schnabel tale was not yet finished. The grandson of John Parker has arrived. Ever since he was a small boy, Parker looked up to his grandfather and almost soaked up his grandfather's expertise in gold mining like a sponge. Even as a young child, it was clear that Parker had a natural talent for engaging in mining activities. In addition, let's just say that he was more than keen to ensure the continued success of the family firm. This fascination with gold began at an early age, much younger than you might otherwise anticipate. Parker Schnabel's adventures in the gold game began when he was just 5 years old. This is where his journey begins. With the permission of his grandfather John, who was a mining legend in his own right, little Parker was allowed to accompany the crews to the mines located close to Haines, Alaska. Now, the majority of children at that age are obsessed with Legos and cartoons, but Parker was addicted to Legos. The noise of the machines, the noise of the dirt flying around, and the most exciting aspect, which is watching genuine gold emerge from the ground. Forget about video games. For him, it was more the equivalent of a treasure hunt in real life. Over the course of his childhood, Parker's passion for gold mining only grew greater. By the time he turned 10, he was already operating miniature excavators and sorting gold, while his grandfather kept a tight eye on him. It was discovered that Parker possessed a sixth sense for locating gold, which was superior to that of some experienced miners. At the age of 16, John made the decision to present Parker with a significant challenge. Parker was in command of everything since he leased a portion of his own claim to Parker. He was in charge of everything. The bills, the earnings, and anything else for that matter. What was going through people's minds? A 16-year-old operating a mine? Obscure. But Parker maintained his composure. In order to extract significant quantities of gold, he assembled a group of local miners, put in a lot of effort, and utilized his gold-finding magic. Parker Schnabel was rapidly being referred to as a prodigy, and it was immediately apparent that he was destined to become just as famous as his grandfather. The news of this juvenile mining genius spread like wildfire. By the year 2012, Parker had already established himself as a gold-digging leader in the Yukon. Using his intelligence and innovative mining techniques, the individual was raking in a substantial amount of money and leaving more experienced prospectors in the dust. The attention of a few reality television networks was drawn to this young prodigy, and they were eager to produce a show about gold mines. You guessed accurately. They proposed an outrageous notion to Parker. Gold Rush is a brand new show that will be broadcast on Discovery Channel. As part of the show, a camera crew will follow him around. Parker, who had always been a successful businessman, and perhaps even a little bit of a showman, saw this experience as a perfect opportunity to stretch his wings and share the history of his family with the rest of the world. Following a brief conversation with Grandpa John, Parker gave his okay, and then Gold Rush came into existence. With the very first episode, Parker established himself as a household name. The manner in which he hustled like it was nobody's business, his youthful enthusiasm, and his brain crammed with gold knowledge were all things that viewers couldn't get enough of from him. Gold rush was a phenomenon that caused Parker Schnabel to become a well-known figure, and he became one of the most promising young players in the gold mining industry. However, he did not let the fame slow him down in the least. Over the course of his Porcupine Creek business, he increased the size of his machines, made them more powerful, and recruited an entirely new staff. Throughout the course of each season, Parker continued to break his own gold records by utilizing his ingenuity, coming up with innovative mining tactics, and utilizing his wits. We are talking about him bringing in more than 3,000 ounces of gold in a single season while he was in his early 20s. That is a significant amount of money. Parker was able to turn his mining expertise and his status as a television personality into an empire. When it came to making money and extracting the most gold from the ground, he established new standards. As a result of the gold rush and his own undeniable talent, Parker went from being a promising rookie to an exceptional force, thereby altering the way the game of gold mining is played in its entirety. On the other hand, 2016 was a challenging year for the Schnabel family. Here in these gold fields, Grandpa John was a legend, and we have lost him. He was 96 years old and had a life that most people can only imagine. Nevertheless, for Parker, it was not only the loss of a hero, it was also the loss of his most ardent supporter. Grandpa John had been Parker's teacher ever since he was a young child, and he had taught him all he understood. The ability to read the land, the ability to manage a crew, and the ability to locate gold that is tough to catch. In order to prepare Parker for the craziness of the mining life, he had built him up and made him strong enough. At this point, Parker was standing by himself for the very first time, as Grandpa had passed away. I felt a lot of emotion. To tell you the truth, Parker, that fire that burned in his gut would not allow him to give up. He pledged that he would not cheat Grandpa John and that he would continue the legacy in a way that would make him proud. While Grandpa was being laid to rest, Parker assumed control of the Schnabel Mining Company. It was a serious objective that he set for himself. With larger digs and more gold than ever before, the famed Eureka Creek, which is said to be the richest undeveloped land in the area, was one of the new claims that he acquired. He also acquired a number of other new claims around the Yukon. All of a sudden, Parker was no longer an operator of a single mine. He had become a mining magnate. Numerous claims are dispersed around the territory of Yukon. This was a completely different ballgame. He was required to mature rapidly, acquire the ability to plan really well, and figure out how to ensure that all of these moving components proceed without a hitch. Rents were piling up, crews were working around the clock, and payroll was increasing. There was a lot of pressure. In order to extract every last ounce of gold from these claims, Parker was forced to show his innovative side. He examined everything and discovered ways to operate more efficiently rather than for longer. Nevertheless, it wasn't all flowers and rainbows all the time. There were errors, poor hiring decisions, and improper equipment, all of which came dangerously close to ruining the entire company. Parker was surrounded by competitors who were waiting for him to make a mistake. On the other hand, Parker, the young man who spent his childhood hunting gold with Grandpa John, with a strong will. As a result of his failures, he was able to build a more powerful team and push himself to greater heights than ever before. Grandpa John's spirit was always there with him whenever he was going through any kind of difficulty. Parker's doggedness was the driving force behind the Schnabel heritage, continuing to shine brighter than it ever had before. Clearly, Parker is getting it. The Yukon is a site that should be preserved in its natural state because it is both scenic and wild. Even as his mining enterprise blew apart, Parker was aware that he had a responsibility to take responsibility. He was aware that he needed to mine intelligently in order to preserve the beauty of this location for future generations. As a result, Parker became a staunch supporter of environmentally responsible mining practices. In order to prevent harmful chemicals from escaping, he made a significant financial investment in specialized equipment and filters that would prevent contaminated water from contaminating the rivers. After they had finished mining a location, Parker's team would clean up the area by removing any debris and planting native flora in order to bring everything back to life, and it was successful in the end. The animals began returning to these reclaimed regions as they showed a great deal of affection for their new home. And because Parker is a fantastic human being, he made advantage of his reputation to advocate for more intelligent mining regulations in the Yukon. He collaborated with the most influential people in order to draft legislation that saved the environment while still allowing people to mine in a responsible manner. He went so far as to become a mentor, instructing younger miners on how to increase their income without destroying the environment. Essentially, Parker turned into a one-man mission to demonstrate that it is possible to be a mining success story while also taking care of nature at the same time. It was his ingenuity that came up with creative strategies to get the most gold while causing the least amount of long-term damage to the land that he cherished. Because of Parker's foresight, the wild beauty of the Yukon and its thriving mining economy will be able to coexist for many years to come. In his mid-20s, Parker Schnabel had already amassed a fortune that was worth $1 million. If you can believe it, a significant portion of that is due to the fact that he was the star of the gold rush. You are probably familiar with the show in which cameras follow him around the Yukon as he searches for gold. It would appear that he was making a cool $100,000 per episode. That is equivalent to $2 million per season. However, hold on. That is only the first piece of information that Parker has in his treasure chest. You have to understand that when it comes to mining claims, Parker's family practically owns half of the Yukon. It's almost like they have their very own private gold mine monopoly. With Parker at the helm, they were absolutely dominating the competition. In a single season, they were able to collect an astounding 3,500 ounces of gold. At today's values, that is equivalent to approximately $5 million. Let's just picture that there is enough gold to fill a bathtub. Every year, Parker's mines continued to produce a significant amount of gold, which resulted in the addition of millions of dollars to his already substantial bank account. But hold on, there's plenty more. Parker developed into a global influencer as a result of his role as the star of Gold Rush. He was offered endorsement deals by major corporations, including weird mining equipment, apparel labels, and everything else you can think of. All of a sudden, Parker was not only the king of the Yukon goldfields, but he was also established as a social media rock star. Parker took use of his reputation to make investments in a wide variety of things. Equipment rental for expanding his business, top-of-the-line trucks for traveling around the mines, and even real estate are all examples of his wealth. When you factor in all of that, including money from television, income from mining, sponsorships, and astute investments, you are looking at a net worth of approximately $10 million and growing. Isn't it a pretty good accomplishment for a guy who got his start by playing in the dirt with his grandfather? However, in contrast to the flamboyant millionaires that you see on the internet, Parker maintains a rather low profile. He lives in accommodation that is practical in his mining camps, which allows him to remain in close proximity to the action. Since the majority of his earnings are invested back into the company, his operation is considerably more spectacular than it already was. But, hey, even millionaires have to take care of themselves every once in a while. Parker's property in Alaska is a beautiful spot. A 45-acre estate with a log cabin that appears like it was taken right from a magazine. Imagine a house that is adorned with rustic beauty and boasts comfortable furniture, providing the ideal setting for unwinding and unwinding after a long season. The estate is surrounded by breathtaking mountain vistas. Additionally, forget about a dull garage because Parker has a whole toy store enclosed within it. Everything he needs to explore those mines in style is right here, including top-of-the-line trucks and all-terrain vehicles. However, Parker is not the type of person who only owns a single property. Rather, he has a real estate portfolio working for him. It would appear that Parker is constructing his own little empire, as he has a vacation rental property in the Yukon Territory and a commercial facility in Haines, Alaska, which can provide him with some additional revenue. Now that we're talking about empires, let's talk about his collection of automobiles. That alone is enough to make any gearhead green with envy. We are in possession of a Ford Raptor, which is the ultimate off-road beast that is ideal for completely dominating the Yukon Territory. On the other hand, there is the Mercedes G-Wagon, which is the epitome of luxury for those rides that are more comfortable. Have a classic mood? A genuine miner's vehicle, Parker's Jeep Wrangler is a Jeep Wrangler. Additionally, if you want to see some excellent custom work, have a look at his modified Chevrolet Silverado. This guy has a passion for automobiles. These items are the epitome of quality and adventure ready, making them the ideal combination. On top of that, they are probably able to deal with a significant amount of mud without complaining. Additionally, in addition to all of that, His mining operation is kept operating like a well-oiled machine by a large fleet of trucks and heavy equipment. Now that Parker is finally able to enjoy some relaxation, he enjoys going out on some amazing adventures across the world or taking his fancy fishing boat out for a spin. The opportunities are virtually limitless. However, this is the most exciting part. Parker is not solely concerned with himself. The individuals who assisted him in arriving here are taken care of by him. His devoted team members are occasionally rewarded with lavish holidays, and he also provides them with substantial bonuses in recognition of their hard work. One thing is certain, however, and that is that Parker's generosity is not limited to his staff. The state of Alaska, from which he originated, is not lost on him. In a significant sense, he is committed to giving back to the communities in the area that were instrumental in his arrival here. Every season, a significant portion of his gold revenues is donated to young sports organizations, local charities, and animal shelters, among other causes. Even veterans organizations receive his assistance. The winters in Alaska are harsh, long, and dark, and there are times when the power goes out. That can be challenging for individuals who are unable to buy expensive generators. When Parker is not working in the mining industry, he rolls up his sleeves and donates his time to the construction of affordable homes and the delivery of goods to families and older citizens who are in need of some additional assistance. Nevertheless, Parker is making sure that people are not only fed and kept warm, he is also making an investment in the future of Alaska. Acquire this. Parker even established a scholarship fund at the high school he attended in the past. By providing assistance to other young people, he hopes to assist them in getting a head start in vocations such as engineering or mechanics, which are extremely valuable in Alaska. To put it simply, he is assisting other people and motivating the next generation to pursue their ambitions in the same way that he experienced them. However, gold is not the most important thing in Parker's life, despite the fact that he is really damn excellent at finding it. This individual has a great deal of alternative pursuits that he pursues while he is not working in a mine. Not only has he authored an entire series of books on his family, but those works have also become blockbusters. Also, Parker has a strong passion for traveling. He has visited a wide variety of locations, ranging from the sweltering rainforests of South America to the historic ruins of Europe. This dude is a thrill seeker. In addition, when he is not traveling the world in his jet, you can find him in Alaska, where he enjoys activities such as fishing, hunting, or simply trekking in the mountains. Nature is his favorite place to be. On top of that, the guy is a history buff. He is utterly captivated by traditional mining implements and supplies. The way that some individuals collect baseball cards is the way that he collects them. It is via all of these activities that Parker is able to relax and maintain a sense of equilibrium, even when the mining becomes wild. Ensures that he remains grounded and prepared to crush it once more. The gold mania that Parker is experiencing is more intense than it has ever been. This individual is not content with merely living in the Yukon. His goal is to establish a mining empire that spans the entire world. My next destination is British Columbia. The Northwest Territories are also on Parker's radar, and his team is currently conducting a search for gem mines in their region. As far as he is concerned, he is interested in South America, Australia, Africa, and pretty much any other place that has bright things underground. On the other hand, it is not just about acquiring more gold. To dig more efficiently and with less effort, Parker and his team are developing some wacky new technology. If you want to acquire that gold with less of an impact on the environment, you might think about using robots, lasers, and the entire sci-fi mining package. How about a win-win situation? Even though Parker is now living the dream, he is already considering what the future holds for him. You should be aware of the Schnabel legacy. In the same vein as her uncle, his niece Amelia appears to have a remarkable interest in mining. Parker is guiding her through the process, and he intends to ensure that this enterprise remains a family one for many years to come. At some point in the future, Parker might decide to take a break from the monotony of his daily routine, concentrate on the bigger picture, and possibly even embark on some new experiences. In addition, you will have more time to go on incredible adventures and take pleasure in all of that gold you have worked so hard to obtain, right? It really does sound like a fairly good plan for retirement. So, where does Parker go from this point forward? Now, regardless of the insane adventure that he decides to go on next, there is one thing that is certain. The future holds nothing but prosperity for Parker Schnabel. Do you remember the young child who was taught by myths and legends about mining? At this point, he has established himself as an icon. Parker incorporated all he had learned from the veterans into his own strategy, and he was able to completely dominate it. And what do you think? It's possible that the best is yet to come. This massive gold mining operation in the Yukon is not going to slow down anytime soon.